Oh, recording starts automatically. So we're live.
Excellent.
And I think we might actually have a couple of attendees in here. Awesome. Cool. Let's see here. Hi, Connor and Vicente. We're going to wait just a couple minutes for a few more people to join, and then we'll do our introductions. If at the, oh, and Joelle, hello. At the bottom, there's a chat function. So if you want to ask anything through chat, you can do that. But actually, there's that Q&A section at the bottom of your screen as well. None of you can talk right now. We have to allow you to talk just because of how this session is set up. And that's really just for background noise. So I just want to say, I apologize for the 5 minutes or 2 minutes of quiet. We're going to hang out for a little bit and let some more people join in.
Looks like we had someone else join us as well. We're just waiting to see who else shows up. So just hang in there with us and we'll be getting started shortly. So do you want to get started, Kenji?
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's go ahead and do that. Awesome. So my name's Kenji. I am an admissions counselor at Gonzaga. And actually, Vicente, I'm pumped that you're here because I'm your counselor. Vicente's coming all the way from Honduras. So that's awesome. I think you're zooming from the furthest away right now. And then we have Meghan here, and I'll let Meghan introduce herself. She works with our financial aid office. But before I let Meghan dive into everything, I just would kind of give you an overview of what this session will look like as far as how you can use it. This is a webinar, so it looks a little bit different than the breakout sessions you were in. There is still that chat function, and you're welcome to use that. But there's also a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. If you open up that Q&A, you can ask questions anonymously if you would like. I'll be managing the Q&A portion, and then Megan's the expert, so I'll let Megan give you all the good info as well. And then, like I said, we'll also be putting a couple of links in the chat section also. Keep an eye out for some good info coming that way. And I see Demetrius just joined us. Welcome. And Megan, I'll go ahead and let you introduce yourself and kick us off.
Hi, everybody. I'm Megan from Financial Aid. I did want to start out by saying that I know that a lot of financial aid issues can be really personal. So Kenji has a link that he's going to share with everybody. If you want to set up an appointment time with me for me to call you or have a Zoom meeting with you personally, we can do that, and you can go over any individual financial aid concerns that you have. If you have general questions, you can also pop them up there in the Q&A, and I believe there's an anonymous way to ask questions as well. And so any which way you want to communicate with us, we'll work with you there. And then at the end, when we go through just some general basic information, then we'll have a question and answer time as well, where we can go ahead and unmute too and ask questions. So let's go ahead and stop my video and share my screen with you and go through some just kind of basic information that we have available for you financial aid wise. So we realize that affordability is a top concern for our students and families. Gonzaga has been considered a top value in higher education for many years due to the funding we offer combined with the quality of our education. If you filed the FAFSA, you should have received a comprehensive financial aid package by now. And if for any reason you haven't, let me know and I can look into that. And if you want to go through it step by step as well, set up an appointment and we can do that. The aid from Gonzaga is both scholarship and grant funding. It is guaranteed for your 4 years of continuous enrollment here at Gonzaga. Students must maintain a good academic standing with the university, which is a cumulative GPA of 2.0. The FAFSA is using prior year financial aid information. So that's going to be the 2018 tax filings for you and your parents. So if there's been a change to the financial situation, such as any job loss, loss of income, fluctuating income, we really recommend that you do a special conditions appeal process, and we'll go visit that website together here in a minute and take a look at that and go into that in a little bit more detail. But also I'd want you to consider that option as well for things you might not consider. If you have younger siblings who are in private school and there's tuition paid for that, that's something we can look at in the appeal process. So we'll go through that, but in a little bit more information here in a little bit. But keep that process in mind as circumstances are changing. If there's any changes in your circumstance, we want to hear about it and know and see how we can help you out. I also really strongly recommend that you apply for outside scholarships. The Gonzaga student body brought in over $3 million in outside scholarships last year. There's also a monthly interest-free payment plan available, and applications for that payment plan will be available here in June. Now, the next thing I'd really like to talk about is work study. I really encourage you to take on a work study job here at Gonzaga while you're with us. That would be about 10 to 15 hours of your week. There's a lot of benefits to working, as you can see here on the slide, but it's also really nice for you just to get out of the classroom and get some work experience, make connections with the university staff, and make some extra money as well. There's a lot of options available if you're between in-state and federal work study, but we also have institutional work study where students can work in a department on campus. The department itself just offers those jobs from their own budget. So you don't have to necessarily qualify for federal or state work study to get a work study job. And there's a lot of other options available if you're interested in employment around the Gonzaga campus. So we can always try to find something for you, even if you don't have that on your award. And let's go ahead and take a look here at the website. So what I've got here is the special conditions appeal. This is the full, and so let's step here. We've got a web page that's going to go over all of the information for the appeal. And so it's who is eligible. It's going to be admitted students and returning students. For admitted students, we're turning these around really fast. So if you submit an appeal, we're going to have it back to you in about a week. And that appeal process, what we're really looking for is to see if there's been a change in financial circumstances that we can take into consideration so that we can get those EFC numbers down from the FAFSA and see if you're eligible for any more federal aid. And it might possibly result in a small increase to your Gonzaga grant as well. The circumstances we can take into consideration, as you can see here, is going to be loss of wages, divorce, any sort of significant medical debt, loss of child support, which is going to happen a lot of time as you transition into college. If there's child support being paid in the family, that's something we want to know about, because the FAFSA will have that listed as income and it's no longer going to be available. So that's one of those considerations that might not occur to people, but definitely let us know if that change has taken place. If you have a parent who's attending college, that's something that we can look at as well. And of course, any natural or national disasters, which we're going through right now. So if there has been any COVID-related costs, let us know, we can see what we can do. Death of a parent or spouse, and again, that private school tuition cost that we talked about before. And circumstances that we can't take into consideration would be any sort of consumer debt, property taxes, your normal mortgage payments, the inability to liquidate any assets, or if you have a parent who's refusing to help you cover those additional expenses, are not really circumstances for the appeal. The appeal form itself, you can go ahead and click here to get that loaded. We'll just go ahead and do that. So we've got some very basic instructions, but it's a pretty self-explanatory form. I'm just going to come down here and put in your information and then the circumstances that have occurred. There is a small box here to put in any extra description. I would suggest maybe just typing something up and attaching it. It's a pretty small box. There's not going to be enough room there to really get all of the information in you need. Here we're going to be looking for the actual income that's happened in 2019 and then the projected income. We realize in a lot of these situations what the actual income for 2019 is not going to accurately reflect what's coming up. So that's why we have the projected income category there. We will need your signatures. You can do that digitally. It does not have to be a wet signature. But if you do print this out, you can just take a picture with your phone and send it back into us. Supporting documentation always helps, but we know that our families are honest, and so we're just looking to get the information we need to get the appeal process started. If we need more documentation, we'll reach out to you, but I would say get it started now. Give us the documentation you have. If you know something's coming later, just let us know in that the attached statement that you put in as well, so that we can reach out to you if we need anything else. But in some circumstance, if you don't have any proof of a job loss or something of that nature, a signed statement will usually be adequate as well. Now, when that appeal process comes in, like I said, we're turning those around really fast for incoming freshmen, and they are worked in the order they're received. If any additional aid becomes available from the Department of Education that you're qualified for, that will automatically be added. And then the other, what we talked about in the slide before was the scholarship search. Here is our outside scholarship search engine online. You can search for that in the search bar and then come in here and it'll give you the list of scholarships that we received. We do some minor vetting on these scholarships to make sure that everything is above board. But I would also caution you as you apply for scholarships to be very wary of anything that seems too good to be true or any organizations asking for too much information. Don't give out your social security number. Don't ever pay for a scholarship application. That's a sure sign that it's fraud. There is a lot of fraud in scholarships right now where they're fishing for information. So it's really important to be vigilant. And I would suggest sticking with really well-known organizations that are offering scholarships and have for a long time. And also to use search engines like ours where we've gone through and we've done some vetting on it.
Hey, Meghan.
Now, yeah.
Just going to interject really quick. We had a question in the chat or in the Q&A. And I believe I know the answer for this one, but I'd love it if you could correct me if I'm wrong. So the question was, sure. Is the appeal form specifically and only for our federal students? So I believe what the question is asking is, our international students, unless you're a U.S. citizen who's living abroad and you filed the FAFSA, this appeal form requires that you file the FAFSA, or I believe in Washington State, the WASFA could be reviewed as well. So if you're an international student, you could not file a FAFSA. This appeal form doesn't exactly apply to you. But this outside scholarship search that Megan's talking about right now is super helpful for our international students and other students who did not file financial information for whatever reason that may be. And Megan, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you want to go through the appeals process, you have to be a U.S. Citizen or permanent resident and have filed the FAFSA or the WASFA, which is a Washington State application.
Correct. So that process is going to be for FAFSA filers or WASFA filers. If you have we do have as far as for international students, they're going to come in with the scholarships that are offered to them is going to be configured a little bit differently from how it's configured for the students who can file the FAFSA. So we've already taken into account what's going to be offered there as far as the financial information goes. Now, if you're on campus and there is an emergency, we do have an international student emergency scholarship that's available, but that would only be, it's a one-time expense for that. So it wouldn't necessarily qualify here for this appeal process. But if you are having difficulty, you know, definitely reach out so we can talk over the individual circumstances and see if there is anything that we can do or wiggle room. We can take a look and see what's available in that as far as it goes. But for the most part, yeah, the appeal process itself is for students who can file the FAFSA for the WASFA for sure.
And then actually get a second question pop in while you were answering that one. So not to derail, but this is one around merit scholarships. The question is, will merit scholarship amount change if Gonzaga cannot house students in the fall and we have to go into remote learning? The short answer to that is no, because your merit scholarship is not something that has anything to do with living on campus. The merit scholarship is based off of your application. The only time you'll see a merit scholarship change is if you bring is when you send in your final information. Is if your grades shot up a bunch or your test scores are much better. We will review when we receive that information. That stops at June 1, reevaluating those. But the merit scholarship, because doesn't have anything to do with that, those typically don't change. Gonzaga is planning to be on campus in the fall. That is our plan right now. Our president, Than McCullough, just just put out an announcement about kind of our planning and contingency planning. So we are planning to be on campus. That does include housing. But it's my understanding that at this point, the scholarship amount won't change regardless of what we are looking like in the fall.
That's correct. So it's guaranteed for 4 years of continuous enrollment along with the Gonzaga grant. It's not, as Kenji was saying, it's not contingent upon you living on campus. Students, some students who have exemptions, and if they have family, they live at home and they still receive their scholarships. So that's not a factor. But it's a great question. Another option, if you guys are looking at payment plans, now this information, this web page is a little lacking right now. It's lacking because we're updating our payment plan process. Our student account colleagues are, and it's going to go to a 4-month option so that the payment plans that are going to be available are going to run from August to November for the fall semester, and from January through May for the spring semester. There's going to be a $50 fee for each semester for that payment plan, and the application process is going to open up on June 1st, and you'll find it here online, and it's going to run through CashNet, so we won't have any more paper applications available.
And just because CashNet may not be a term that everybody's familiar with, CashNet is it's Gonzaga's online payment form. So if you come to campus, we use that for everything from retreats to any school fees and everything like that. So that's a form that it's a secure form for payment that we use for online payments on campus.
And then the other thing I would want to talk about would just be that the expenses that you're going to encounter in your budget, there's a cost of attendance. And if we take a look at cost of attendance really quick here. The term is a federal term that we're required to use. It's going to include your direct commission.
I'm not sure if this is happening for
costs responsible
Megan,
for.
Megan, you're cutting out a little bit. Would you mind repeating what you just said?
Oh. Sure, absolutely. So we're on the cost of attendance page for the website here, and that cost of attendance is a federally defined term. And this means that it's going to include not just your direct costs, but indirect costs that you're not going to be billed for. So direct costs are going to be tuition and fees and room and board. and possibly your loan fees if you take out loans. So that's what you'll actually be billed for. But in this list, there's other expenses here that you're not billed for and that you have a large portion of control over, from books to personal expenses and transportation. Here at Gonzaga, our IDs act as a bus pass. So if you want to, you can bring this number down to 0 right from the start by leaving a car at home. Your parents can take you off the insurance for a while and save some costs that way. The system is really fantastic. We're offered it as employees as well, and I use it occasionally to commute to work in addition to walking. And our bus system is fantastic. Spokane, being the size that it is, unless you're an outdoorsy person, there's not too many places to go besides downtown. So the bus takes you straight there and back, and you can walk as well. That's a really great way to save some money. Personal expenses is always up to the individual, and some students really embrace the budgeting college ramen lifestyle and can really bring those costs down there as well. And as far as books go, you know, that's a place where there's a lot of options if you're thinking ahead. I know the library has a copy of all of the books that are used in classrooms, and some students will reserve those ahead of time and you can check it out for the semester. We also have the Spokane Public Library as well, and there's textbook rentals. So those are some ways that you can look at cutting down costs. And that's kind of an overview of just some general starting information as far as financial aid goes. I know there's going to be some individual questions. Are there anything coming up as far as individual questions?
There's nothing new in the Q&A or in the chat right now. You're more than welcome to ask your questions there. Just a couple more things that I want to kind of add. I was an undergraduate student not too long ago. I graduated back in 2017, and books were a big way that I saved money. I think my first semester I spent a lot more than I needed to, because I went to the Zag shop, our bookstore on campus, and bought all of my books right there because I knew I could get them right there. And I actually had a professor kind of pull me aside and say, you know, this is actually my book and you can buy it for cheaper over here and things like that. And maybe some books you won't need to rent or you won't want to keep, so you can rent them rather than buying them. If other people's marks don't distract you, there's always used books as well. There's also now electronic books. I like paper. I need to feel paper while I'm studying, so I still go for the paper books. But a lot of our students, a lot of our classes are often to online documents, and so that's a lot cheaper and portable, more portable sometimes than a book even. So that's another great option to save some money there also. The other thing that I just wanted to add with cost of attendance, and I'll answer a question really quick. Just pop in the Q&A. Deposit for enrollment is $500, and then the housing deposit would be an additional $200. Yeah, so but those can be paid at separate times. But yeah, with cost of attendance, a lot of you in this list, because I know your names, because I do this work, have scholarships, right? And that's going to take out portions of tuition. Room and board is another thing that you're going to have to pay, right? But there's some ways to, I don't want to say get around that, but find ways to pay for that. So being a residence assistant, for example, and working in a residence hall is great leadership experience. It looks great on a resume and helps cover room and board. There are a number of ways where you can kind of do that work where you're working on campus, you're getting experience and helping yourself pay for college at the same time. Meghan mentioned working on campus. I worked in the admissions office all 4 years. So there's a pathway to be an admissions counselor. If you'd like to do that, also we can talk about that. But was also a great way for me to work while I was in school. When you're working on campus, you're very much a student worker. So your supervisors know that you are a student first. So they help you with that work-life balance. And that's also available for international students. So I know we talked about state and federal work study. There's also CPT and OPT for international students. You can also work on campus, and we can help you find jobs off campus if that's what you like to pursue as well. I'll stop talking. We'll open up for any questions. So like I said, please feel free to use the Q&A. I did put the link to schedule a meeting with Meghan if you would like. So if you got all the information you need right now, but you want to go and schedule a meeting, if you just want to copy and paste that link into your web browser, you can schedule a meeting right out one-on-one with Meghan, or you can keep asking your questions here. Awesome. All right, Meghan, we got a Q&A question. Is it easy to find a job on campus or is it competitive?
It's super competitive.
Oh, you
Oh,
kind of cut out.
we had some there. No, it's super competitive. So I would say if you're interested in working on campus, whether you have a work study award or you're going to look for institutional work study, be on the job boards in late July and apply to every job that you're interested in. Most of them will be gone by the time you get on campus. So definitely get a head start on that for sure.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Megan, but let's say somehow every single student work study job on campus is taken. I don't know if that's ever happened, but every single position is taken. We have resources in the community also, right? There's students can work. We have some community partners that we could help connect students to. I know students that work for places like Dutch Bros, which is a coffee shop, and other things like that.
Yeah, there is an option if you have Washington State Work Study. It's has an off-campus component where you can. We have a coordinator who specializes in building relationships with businesses and using those funds to do that. But if you're there's still going to be a lot of opportunities to work on campus and places that we've developed relationships with as well to help you out with that. And then if you, there's certain other things on campus too. Sodexo is our third-party catering service. And if you walk into Sodexo and ask for a job, you're going to walk out with one most likely. And that's another place where it's not a work study job per se as in your financial aid award, but they're going to be very understanding. If you have a test the next day, they're going to tell you to go home and study. Very, very much making your schedule around your student life versus around your work life.
And staying on this theme of working on, or just work study in general, question of how do I start the process of getting a work study job? Yeah, how do you start that process? What's the first office they should contact? Should they download Handshake and start doing that? Or if you want to talk through what that looks like.
So right now our job board is Handshake. We are transitioning that to a new job board over the summer. So accepted students will be receiving emails about the job board that we're transitioning to as that's up and ready to go. Right now it's Handshake, but I would go ahead and wait for student employment to send out that email to you and to all students with the new job board that's coming up.
Yeah, so that'll come through your Zag mail. So once you confirm, you'll have access to your Zag mail account, and that's where all Gonzaga email will come through. Great question, though. That's an important one. And I was a student that I graduated high school, and a week later I reached out and was able to secure a job when I started on campus right away. So something I recommend as well. Yeah. I don't see any other questions in the chat right now. Some other things, just kind of, I want to hop back to outside scholarships a little bit. Megan mentioned own the paying for scholarships, right? Never do that. Look for those resources that are reputable. The College Board, they have a great outside scholarship search database. We have a strong search database. I also recommend looking local. So you will probably be able to find some of your local governments, some community-based organizations, non-government organizations, not-for-profit organizations that are going to have scholarships for the local community. I was actually talking with a colleague and she was able to find, there's a student who's in a county in central or north central Washington, and she found a scholarship that's only for students who want to study exactly that student studying in that county, right? So scholarships can be really, really broad as just leadership, or they can be very specific. So I recommend doing both of those searches. You know, if you're a student that wants to study STEM, Google search STEM scholarships, or if you're a student that knows exactly what you want to do, you know, type in the scholarship searches that I did for myself for underrep student, history major, teacher. Those were like my Google searches. So you can get pretty creative in finding those things. I'm going to put our contact for the admissions office in here as well, because we are here to be a resource also. So you can reach out to Megan, myself, or either of our offices, and we like to help you find creative ways to bring scholarships to campus. All right, well, I will put those links that I just promised you in in that chat there. And then, like I said, if you have questions, feel free to keep answering those. Megan and I are going to be hanging out for about at least 15 more minutes. So if you've got if you got in your fill, you're more than welcome to leave the meeting. But if you have more questions, we would love to answer your questions. Okay, so we got a new question in the Q&A.
Another question popped up here. Like, is there a way in which we could confirm? Yeah. Is there a way in which we could confirm the school which outside scholarships are legit or real? So I would say it's we do our best to with our outside scholarship engine to do some minor vetting of those scholarships, but there's so many out there right now that it's overwhelming. We stopped taking unsolicited scholarship offers. We used to get a lot in, and we'd have somebody who would go and check them out and make sure they were legitimate. But then it became such a activity for fraud in that field, so much so that we had to stop. We were overwhelmed with the amount of fraudulent people that were contacting us to put scholarships on our website. So I'd say using our outside search engine is a good place to start, and just staying with really well-established scholarships that have a good long history, that are at reputable websites. If you get from your web browser, kind of using that caution of putting your information in, really, you can always call us too. We're happy to take a look and see if you're kind of on the fence about it, but always trust your better judgment. If it feels wrong, it is wrong. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Most scholarships are usually very modest amounts to help out with books and extra expenses. So keeping the expectations in line with what's being offered, and using common sense. And then also, you can also Google search. I know that if it's coming up that you're suspicious about something, one of the things that I did when I started seeing those scholarship offers that come into our office was just kind of Googling the parent company's website and seeing what they do. There's lots of ways to really vet those through, but if you have any questions, just call and ask. We're happy to help where we can, but we don't have a way to give you 100% answer on that, unfortunately.
Megan, there's another question in the Q&A, but I think I want to highlight a tip that you just kind of dropped was, you're not going to find, it's going to be very hard to find a scholarship that's going to cover $46,000, right? But you may have a gap of $4,000 or $5,000, and you're going to apply for 5 $1,000 scholarships, right? So I really do use it for every penny counts, because you can bring in those little scholarships to just kind of chunk away at what you have left. So don't dismiss those $500, $1,000 scholarships because you're looking for a $20,000 scholarship, because those are fewer and far between. Going back to the Q&A, do you know which percentage of students take out private loans, and do you recommend it?
So private loans are realistically a pretty small percentage of students that are taking out private loans. The way that it's structured, if you are a FAFSA filer, you're going to be offered $5,500 from the federal government in a combination of either unsubsidized loans or unsubsidized and subsidized loans. That limit is going to increase by $1,000 for every year that you obtain a grade level, not just by the year passing over, but by actual credit hours. And so your sophomore year, you'll be eligible for $6,500, and then your junior and senior year, it caps out at $7,500. Those loan limits are set really low by the federal government, with the intention that even if you need to do a 5th year, you're going to graduate with much more than $30,000 in debt, which you can pay off in 10 years at an entry level salary. additional family support. It's also a means to help guide them towards a school that they can afford. Now, above and beyond that, you can apply for private loans, but at the age that most students are going to be coming into Gonzaga, they're not going to be offered a private loan without a cosigner. And at that point, their cosigner would usually be their parents, and their parents then, looking at those terms and conditions for a private loan, will generally opt for a Parent Plus loan from the federal government if they're going to go. That Parent Plus loan is offered by the federal government, and it's a separate loan process from the FAFSA application that you do. And it is a credit-based loan, but it's not based on a credit score. It's just based on an absence of negative credit 90 days prior to filing. So most families do qualify for that loan offer. We see more of those than private loans. That's going to be a decision within the family if they want to pursue that loan option. But private loans, relatively rare. I would say probably under 5% of this undergraduate population would have an actual private loan, but a much larger portion would have those Parent Plus loans from the federal government.
Thanks, Megan. And I know you and your colleagues aren't financial advisors, right? But if a student in a family was considering taking, subsidized, unsubsidized, or a Parent Plus loan, could they call you or your office and talk through what that might look like in the long run, right? Like I think some families don't necessarily realize that a Parent Plus loan that stays in the parent's name until that debt is paid off, right? That's not a transferable loan. So they could call your office and ask those questions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say anytime that you're going to be taking out loans, whether it's now or down the road when you're going to be a graduate student, it really behooves you to take a lot of time and do the research on those loans. There's calculators at studentaid.gov where you can put in the amount that you're going to take out and see what your first monthly repayment would be. And just kind of put that in line with what your career expectations are. Is that really going to realistically fit in your budget? And especially for your parents to be able to do that as well. Go in and see what those repayments are, make sure they're going to fit in the family budget, and that is a cost that they can incur. But the questions, the specific questions that come up with that, absolutely give us a call. We want to talk to you. We want to make sure that we can give you the best advice possible so that you can make the best and most informed decisions for you and your family.
And speaking from experience, as a student who had lots of financial aid questions, Megan's one, she's not just saying that, and also that's something that you can take advantage of all 4 years. Not only can you continue to apply for scholarship while you're on campus, there are actually a couple of somewhat Gonzaga related scholarships, donor scholarships, and things like that that are only for our current students. But you can always go into that financial aid office and continue to ask questions about your situation. If you are a student in the US that's filed a FAFSA, you have to do that every single year, right? Same thing with the WASPA. And if you forget how to do that, or you have questions or anything like that, or you're just looking for more aid, you need to start applying for more scholarships, something like that. The whole time that you're on campus, you can use any of our resources, especially the financial aid office and student accounts, while you're here.
We have a very well-staffed office. We're always happy to have you come in and see us, and we'll go through all of the options that are available to you. Stop by, see us. We have, right now you can set up Zoom meetings with individual counselors or with the counselor that's on today. So there's almost never a line in our office. We're prepared for walk-ins 5 days a week.
Well, a couple of you may be typing questions, but I just want to talk about some things that are happening that you could continue to engage with if you're still trying to find more information about Gonzaga, or if you want some more of just current student perspective, because I know that's one thing that with our world situation you're missing. So next week we are still doing student panels. So if you go to, I'll put the website in the chat here, but it's the same website where you went to register for this event, the www.gonzaga.edu/virtual-Gonzaga. We are doing current student panels. So you can hop into a student panel and ask questions to current students if you'd like. We can also connect you with any student in your program, or typically a student in your program. If you let me know what you're studying and you want to talk with a current student, I can reach out to our ambassadors or other students on campus. You'll find that Gonzaga students love to talk about Gonzaga. So it's typically not a hard thing for me to find a student who'll talk to you for a little while. Megan, we have about 7 minutes left. Any final words of wisdom that you want to bestow upon our couple of students that are still hanging out with us?
I would say that always reach out. Financial issues are ones that sit really heavy on people's hearts sometimes, and people can be very private about their financial information, but we can't help you if we don't know what's going on. So always, I know that sometimes the financial aid office can seem like an intimidating place, but we're there to help, and we come in every day so that we can see students and help you out. So certainly come in and let us know what's going on so that we can reach out and help you. And then again, anytime you're taking out loans, just be really cognizant that the loans have to be repaid at some point, and look into those informations. A lot of people approach it with just, they'll think about it some other day, but that other day comes faster than you realize. Tools available to you at studentaid.gov to really take a look and see what those going to back as, because when they're not subsidized loans, when they have the unsubsidized, they are going to accrue interest as soon as they disperse, and that interest is going to capitalize when you graduate, which means that that interest goes back into the principal of the loan, and then every month the interest that accrues goes back in, so the loan keeps growing and growing and growing. And understanding how that process works and what that's going to look like when you get into repayment is really important. It helps you make good choices as far as, if you know what your repayment is going to be, you can budget. And when you know that, you'll know what to look for when you're looking at job offers. How much do you actually have to make ends meet and pay those loans back? And then when you get to repayment, come see us before you graduate. Come down and do an in-person appointment with us so that we can go over repayment options. There's a lot of options available, and repayment is very tricky. And so if you're going to go into repayment and you've got a good career ahead of you, pay off those loans as fast as you can. But if you're looking at any of the income-based repayment plans, it's even more important to talk to somebody who's got some knowledge, because they're very, you always want to dot the I's and cross the T's on those processes. They're very fine-tuned, and especially with public loan forgiveness, those kinds of programs, if you're not doing everything in the exact order that they say, they'll disqualify you from those programs. So it's always in your best interest to be as self-educated and reach out to other experts as a resource when you're looking at those loan issues.
Thank you. No question's a bad question, especially when it comes to your financial standing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Well, like I said, we'll hang out until 5:45-ish. So if the three of you do still have questions, you're more than welcome to ask those. But at this point, I'm going to kind of just let you do that, or like I said, if you've gotten your fill, then thank you for joining us today. I hope that the whatever sessions you joined were helpful. And if more questions arose from today, please ask those. On the virtual, on the page where all the Zoom links are also all the contacts for everybody who presented today. So if you want to ask anybody a question directly or generally, you can either, I put the contacts for both the financial aid office and the admissions office. Both of our departments have just general emails. So if you don't want to email one person in particular, you could email just finaid@Gonzaga or admissions@Gonzaga, or you can email any of the people you got to engage with today. Like Megan said, we all work at Gonzaga because we love to help students and talk with students and their families. So you're not going to bug us. Sometimes we're waiting for you to call us and ask us your questions. Megan, we had a question for you. So the question is, how do I schedule a meeting with a financial advisor? I think what the student means is as a financial aid counselor, and I don't mean to get nitpicky, but a financial advisor is going to be more for your investments. I'll repost the link. The first link I'm going to post is to meet just with Megan, or Megan specifically. And then the second link is just for the financial aid office, more so or contacting the financial aid office in general. So maybe you've met with a financial aid counselor before, but you couldn't remember exactly who that was. You could take a look at all of Megan's colleagues and reach out to them also if you'd like.
And that's going to have more availability as well, because that's going to be open to, we have a on-duty model where counselors are available all day. We always have availability for walk-ins, and those scheduled appointments will be routed to the counselor of the day. And so there's a lot more scheduling availability. If you don't have an opening on my schedule, they'll definitely have an opening there. The time for the work.
Oh, and I should say, I believe all the times on the website are going to be posted in Pacific Standard Time. So if you're not on the West Coast time zone, just something to be aware.
Correct.
I haven't made that mistake before, so just a heads up.
And you don't have an individual counselor assigned. We found that most of us want the answers, so we're all prepared and ready to work with you. Some students have specific programs. Do have a counselor that they need to meet with, but if you're not in one of those programs, you can meet with anyone.
Thank you, Camilla. We hope to see you in the fall also. All right, I'm going to stop recording.